सामान्यतः अस्माभिः वैदिकवाङ्मये वैज्ञानिकविषयाः सन्ति इति नावगम्यन्ते। विज्ञानस्य वस्तुतो मूलं भवति गणितग्रन्थः। यावता अस्माभिः गणना न क्रियते तावता यत्किमपि न साधयितुं शक्यते इति कश्चन महावीराचार्यः इति कश्चन आसीत्। सः स्वीये ग्रन्थे आदौ के विषयाः भवन्ति गणितसम्बन्धिनः इति किञ्चिदिव उक्त्वा बहुभिर्विप्रलापैः किं त्रैलोक्ये सचराचरे यत्किञ्चिद्वस्तु तत्सर्वं गणितेन विना न हि इत्यवोचत्। The issue is, when we talk about the role played by mathematics in different fields, we do not really appreciate that we are actually making use of mathematics. But the soul of mathematics seems to be the decimal place value system which has been invented by Indians. And where does it occur? How do we know that Indians did this? So, the source is Vedas. So, the enormous amount of simplification that has been done by decimal place value system is not something which has been recognized, or the role of zero, which is one of the major contribution of India. This is something which is known, but much more has been done in Shulva Sutras which is not well known. So, the earliest text that we have with us to demonstrate that Indians have been excelling in geometry, arithmetic as well as algebra is Shulva Sutras. Where does this Shulva Sutra come in? The corpus of Vedic knowledge. So, let me just tell you. So, we have a very interesting passage in Mundakopanishad. So, which says, which actually broadly divides Vidya into two types, right? Dve vidye vejitavye iti hasma yad brahmavido vadanti parachaiva aparacha. Tatra apara rigvedo yajurveda samavedo tharvaveda shiksha kalpo vyakaranan nirittan chando jyotishamiti iti mantraha. Tatra jyotishasya urlekhaha vartate vastutah na ganitasya parantu गणितभागः वस्तुतः ज्योतिषान्तर्गतः एव आसीत् पुरातनकाले। विशिष्य गणितमिति विभागेन पुरा नासीत्, परन्तु ज्योतिषे एव तस्य अन्तर्भावः आसीत्। वस्तुतः ज्योतिषशब्दस्य अद्यत्वे एस्ट्रालजी इति नाम्ना सर्वे अभिमन्यन्ते। वस्तुतः तत् गणितशास्त्रसम्बन्धी ग्रहाणां स्थितिः गतिश्च येन शास्त्रेण अवगम्यते तत् ज्योतिषशास्त्रम्। अनन्तरं फलितभागस्तु अन्यः। स्थितिः इत्युक्तौ कुत्र अस्मिन् दिने अस्मिन् क्षणे सः ग्रहः तिष्ठति इति ज्ञानं। तत् गणितमन्तरा न भवितुमर्हति। अतः तत्र गणितशास्त्रस्य अत्यन्तगरिष्ठसम्बन्धः ज्योतिषशास्त्रेण सह। अत्र अस्य पत्र पश्यतु, तत्र एवं विभागः कृतः। तत्र ज्योतिषम् इति तदन्तर्भूतत्वेन गणितशास्त्रं भवति। तत्पूर्वं तु कल्पः इति यत् निर्दिश्यते तदन्तर्भूतत्वेन शुल्बसूत्रादिकं। तत्र वस्तुतः चत्वारो भागाः प्रायः भवन्ति। Primarily, broadly, these Kalpa Sutras are divided into four types. They call it Shauta Sutra, Grihya Sutra, then Shulva Sutra, then we have also Dharma Sutras. So, all of them form a part of what is known as Kalpa Sutra. So, here I am going to basically tell you the importance of Shulva Sutras and the kind of message that the Shulva Sutras give regarding the mathematical sophistication that these Vedic seers had around that period. So, what is the period of Shulva Sutras? So, some sort of estimate has been made by scholars, and they say, so it is something around 800 BCE. In fact, there is no clear evidence in the text from which we will be able to specify the dates of Shulva Sutras, but it is quite antique. So, this much has been accepted by scholars. So, something like 800 BCE, 500 BCE and so on. When we talk about mathematics in Vedas. So, if we start with that, so there are a few things which one may find out which give us hint regarding the mathematics that these people had. See, when we say mathematics, it is not this formula, that formula, but the very basic. So, if we get into, so counting, and counting actually leads to, so plus, minus, addition, division, multiplication and so on. After that people started doing this. So, there what kind of system do you follow to make this counting and arithmetical operations? There Indians seem to have really contributed a great in discovering this decimal place value system and representation of this system. So, we had this sophistication of using the letters. Initially you start with words, see ekam, dasha, shatam and so on. So, then we had various other systems like see katapayadi, bhuta sankhya and so on and so forth. So, this actually is a very important contribution which Indians have made. When it comes to Vedas, so we have simple system, see. So, this is called word numerals. Triste namaha, chatuste namaha, dashakritvaste namaha, shatakritvaste namaha, asahasrakritvaste namaha, aparimitакritvaste namaha. So, what does this tell you? So, this tells you that these people have been clearly following decimal system. Let me give you a few more examples. So, for instance, Yajurveda we have Shataya Swaha, Sahasraya Swaha, Ayutaya Swaha, Niyutaya Swaha, Prayutaya Swaha. So, all these powers of 10 have been clearly stated. Now, in other systems we do not even have the powers of 10 having specific words. For instance, if you compare, we have million, billion, trillion. So, not every power. So, in fact, we have a long listing of all the powers of 10. So, this is one distinction which one has to keep in mind. In Taittiriya Samhita, Ekachame, Tisraschame, Panchachame, Saptachame. So, these are all certain countings which we can find there, listing of numbers. Little more involved numbers are also stated. For instance, if you look at this in Rigveda, we have Trini Shata, Tri Sahasran, Yagnim, Trimshascha, Devanava, Chasaparyan. So, this has a very interesting thing. If you look at this, see for instance, so this is 33 plus 303 plus 3003 and the sum happens to be so close to 18 years, which has to do with the lunar cycle. So, this actually gives you a certain hint as to how they have been relating this mathematics with the count of the number of days which the moon takes to come back to its position. So, this speaks of the sophistication of the astronomical observation which these people have made and which has got sort of reflected in the Veda to some extent. Now, having said this, the point I wanted to convey was, if we want to trace the antiquity of mathematics in the Indian tradition, the first source that one looks into is Vedas. And what do we find in Vedas? We find the listings of numbers, listings of powers of 10 and so on and so forth. Etat sarvam tatra drishyate. Asmat kim vaktum shakyate nischapracham. So, there is no ambiguity with regard to the decimal place value system which have been at least in verbal form employed by these people. See, one is having something in verbal form, next is something in notational form. So, having something in notational form, we do not have very clear evidence as to when it started, but definitely in verbal form we find it in Veda, which is the most antique literature. This is one important thing. The second thing is the kind of facility that this decimal place value system gives you as well as the representation which it gives you is something which can be appreciated only when you actually think of the other systems. So, if you think of Roman system, so then if you want to write 48, how will you write x, right, v 1 1 1. So, how complicated is it? So, if you want to multiply, it is all extremely difficult. So, therefore, notation also has been improved, but we do not clearly know when it was done. And this Vedic civilization has made immense contribution, is something which has been stated by even Swami Vivekananda. He says, see, the 10 numerals, the very cornerstone of the present civilization, the very cornerstone of the present civilization was discovered in India, and in reality in Sanskrit words. Speaking of this, certain other scholars have also really appreciated this. What I am going to focus now is how did these Shulva Sutras evolve, in what context did they evolve. So, the primary purpose as to why the Shulva Sutras was enunciated is to help the Vedic priests in connection with the construction of altars. The kind of sophistication that has been achieved over a period of time, so is something which can be seen by going through a few Shulva Sutras. Shulva Sutra, which form a part of Kalpa Sutra, so is what we are just going to discuss now. What does the word Shulva Sutra mean? Three different modes in which the word can be derived. Tatra Shulbanam Shulbaha iti vaktum shakyate, Shulbyate iti Shulbaha iti vaktum shakyate, Shulvatyanena iti Shulbaha iti. Tatra Karana Vyutpattihi, Karma Vyutpattihi, Bhava Vyutpattihi iti tridha bhavitum arhati. Tatha cha antato gatva kim ayati ityuktau. Tatra yena asmabhihi kriyate tadapi nirdeshtum shakyate, yena prakarena kriyate iti tat sarvam bhavati. Sarvam atra pratipadyate. Tatra Shulva Sutreshu प्रसिद्धः वर्तते बौधायन शुल्ब सूत्रम आदौ इदमेव आदौ रचितम् इति तत्र एतैः अनुमीयते. तत्र यानि पदानि प्रयुक्तानि दृश्यन्ते तानि पदानि इतरापेक्षया अत्यन्तं प्राचीनानि इति कृत्वा तत्र एवं कालनिर्णयः अपि कैश्चित् क्रियते. बौधायन शुल्ब सूत्र, आपस्तम्भ शुल्ब सूत्र, कात्यायन शुल्ब सूत्र, मानव, वादूला, मैत्रायण इत्येतत् सर्वं वर्तते. तत्र बोधायन शुल्ब सूत्रेषु के विषयाः प्रतिपादिताः, तेषां प्रामुख्यं किम् इति स्थालीपुलाकन्यायेन किञ्चित् वच्मि. तत्र शुल्ब सूत्रेषु ये विषयाः प्रतिपादिताः तेषां विषयानाम् अवगमार्थम् अनन्तरकाले भाष्यादिकमपि एतैः रचितम्. So this has also been done, commentaries have also been written down. So when we talk about this Bodhayana Shulva Sutra, so there are two different commentaries. One is by Dwarakanath Ejva, the other is by Venkateshwara Dikshita. All of us know that the sutra style itself is something which is somewhat terse, not so easy to understand without the help of commentary. So given this, so these commentators have actually helped us not only in trying to understand the sutra, but also in trying to understand the mathematics that has gone behind it to some extent. So therefore these are extremely important.